Welcome everybody. Welcome back to another month gone by. Can you believe it? We're in February already, end of February. It just doesn't seem possible, does it? This year is just whipping by, isn't it? Absolutely whipping by. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Let's make a start this morning. Hi, John. You all right? Good to see you.
Hi, Justin. Hi, everyone. You too. How you going? All right?
Yeah, good.
Morning, John. Morning.
Good. Morning.
Okay, so let me. I've got a couple of slides just to get us back in the groove, as it were, and then we'll open up some breakout rooms, give you the chance just to discuss progress and see what's on your mind and what we need to cover today. I've got some topics, but I'd also like to just make sure that it's relevant to what's going on for you guys at the moment. So it's already 10:30 on Friday. You've probably been at it a couple of hours already this morning, I would imagine. So I'll just give you a moment before we jump into the session just to reorientate yourselves, capture anything that's on your mind. If you need to, make any notes, tie things off, put phones and stuff on silent, which I've done, silent notifications if you need to. And if you're in a good place, just take the time to, breathe, be present, bring yourself back into the moment. And I'll remind us of our principle around the beginner's mind and recognizing that this session is all about layering on top of what you're already doing to give you the additional skills, knowledge and experience that you need to be successful in your roles. As we go through today, you'll have some discussions with each other and we'll have some discussions as a group and we'll capture some key takeaways that are going to be relevant for you and specifically for your role, your teams, your business. And let's quickly contract to get ourselves back in the right frame of reference. So we talked about silencing notifications, but a reminder that we are recording it. If there's anything that's particularly sensitive or confidential, then this is a safe place for us to discuss that. But if you do want anything off the recording, then just let me know and I'll press the pause button and we can just exclude that from the recording if there's anything that's particularly tricky that you'd like to keep completely confidential. We'll take, it'll be an interactive discussion. We'll take questions as we go along as well. And we'll take a short break at the halfway point. So we'll have a quick kind of leg stretch at about 10 past 11, something like that. Morning, Sansi.
Hi.
Hiya. And I've got a couple of topics for today. But we should stay on track because actually we've got pretty good group so far. We haven't had any trouble with drifting one way or the other to date. So I can't imagine it will start today. These are all of the workshop learning outcomes for everything that we're working through. So I won't go through these in detail, but you know that we're working through these models together, and it is about how we take this clearer, more structured approach to leadership that gives us confidence, gives our teams confidence and helps us to get higher performance and better results from the teams that we are working with. I'll also remind you about accountability partners. So I know you know who they are, but just to try and keep this on your radar about regular check-ins with each other so that you've got someone that's helping you and supporting you as you navigate your own challenges outside of these sessions that we have together as a group. So I'll kind of leave that with you to do it, but if you can be focusing in on the key actions that you're taking as a result of the program and some of the changes that you need to make, how you support and help each other to make the progress that you're looking for, and then this frequency of review, you decide on the frequency, but maybe every couple of weeks would be a good opportunity just to check in and keep each other on track. Reminder of our first workshop, first principle about energy, about motivation, about engagement, and making sure that if we want the highest levels of engagement from our teams, we have to have that level of engagement in ourselves, and that becomes kind of contagious with other people. And high positive engagement is contagious, so is apathy. And you'll all have seen it in the past when you work with an apathetic leader where you're like, God, if they're feeling flat or a bit run down, then it kind of tends to translate through to the team. So managing ourselves is so important as part of what we do to inspire our teams to perform. Reminder of our challenges that we talked about in our first session. Hopefully these are starting to become less and less of a challenge for you in your roles, but we talked about imposter syndrome, and because of that imposter syndrome, that can sometimes be a barrier to getting the clarity and the honest feedback from our team, but making sure that we handle our own confidence as well. We talked about how to do that a number of times, but a good reminder that it's something we should keep on our radar. It's interesting. I've been reading a book by Carol Dweck called Growth Mindset. Just finished it this week. It's a really interesting book, actually. And she talks about, confidence and your mindset and how it comes in waves. So you'll have a period where you feel confident, then you might, for whatever reason, start to feel that confidence deteriorate for a period. You have to rebuild it yourself, and then you come back up. And it's interesting because you think once you've got confidence, that's it. But it does tend to go up and down in waves throughout your kind of working, professional and personal life. So just that reminder that it's an ongoing process to rebuild, regain and sustain our confidence. Then we talked about team personality clashes. How do we handle arguments and potentially resentment? We looked at the model, how do we contract with people? How do we build a team contract across our organization so that we can start to iron out some of those issues before they become issues? We talked about departments and functions and cooperation and collaboration. And again, kind of contracting and getting agreement from people about working practices. Really important that we do that for ourselves and not only our team, but potentially other departments that we collaborate with. We talked about recruitment and how do we get team fit, business fit and role fit. Actually getting clarity over what we want is a big part of that. And our models help us to kind of get that definition of what it is we're trying to achieve for ourselves and our teams. Knowing when to step back and when to step in. We covered this in the last full day session, actually, around coaching and recognizing that actually, if we take a coaching-led approach and we've got the agreement from our teams about the contract we have, then we agree together when we step in, when we step back. We don't leave it to chance on the odd occasion where we have to then make the decision. We've already agreed that with our teams. And if a lot of you are in situations where you're seeing customers with your teams, one of the things, I don't know if we've discussed this, but one of the things I had an agreement with my team when I was a sales and business manager was when I was with them in a sales call, if they wanted my support and help, they would invite me into the conversation. If they didn't invite me, I didn't step in. And it was that cut and dried. And there were a few occasions where in my head I'm going, you should step in, you should step in, you should step in. And I managed to resist. And what that created were some brilliant coaching conversations afterwards, because I didn't step in and they had some struggles through the conversations. It enabled me to then be able to coach them afterwards. So when this part of the meeting happened, do you remember what was it that happened at that stage? And they tell you, and then you can start to coach from there. So what would you, if you could go back and replay that, what would you change? How would you position whatever it is differently? What question would you ask? That kind of thing. And then finally, maintaining team focus and momentum. And we have our 133, 135, depending on your perspective on this, right? But the plan that we put in place, interestingly, I had a team meeting with my small team this week. And we were refining 133 plans. And I gave you a shout out, Chris, and said, if anybody wants to open it up to 135, because we might want a few more things in there. Nobody agreed. But there you go. I put it out there. I gave them the option. Do you want more to do? And they said no. So we stuck with 133, but it might evolve over the year.
Been allowed.
Give me 5 minutes with them, and then I'll have them converted.
You can come to my next team meeting, Chris. Share best practice. I'll have a 1-3-10 if it was allowed. Oh, dear. When you go back, we've got a 1-3-20 plans. What on earth? So that's where we are so far. We've got our coaching leaders toolkit that helps us with implementation. So hopefully you're using that as your working guide. Lots of different, as I say, lots of different documents in there alongside the things we've covered so far. And in our session in April with Matt and all of us in Viva. So Matt's joined as well. Morning, Matt.
Morning, sorry I'm late. I've got a bit of an issue to deal with, so I might have to drop off for half an hour at 11.
Okay, no worries. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for joining us, and let's hopefully you can get it resolved today. We have lots of things in here, and on our final session with the team in Oxford, we will go through any of the documents that we haven't covered so far that you think will be useful. So, feedback so far. So, a couple of things. I'm going to open up how many? 2, 4, 6, 8. We'll open up a couple of rooms with 4 in each room. I've got 8. Yeah, a couple of rooms with 4 in each room. And I'd love you to just kind of have the chance to discuss your actions and progress to date, accountability discussions and how they've been going, maybe some of the ongoing challenges that you're still kind of grappling with and trying to address. There might be situations with your team. You know, it's a month since the last session. Stuff's always coming up, right? It might be priorities that are in your role. It might be time management. It's all right for you guys because you've made it, but some of the team, you know, we had a couple of messages this morning about, you know, actually stuff's come up, so I can't make the session. That is a challenge, a time management challenge, right? These are real for all of us. And then I'd be interested also from the last session, we did some live coaching conversations. I'd love to hear or discuss, and then we'll regroup and get your feedback. How have you found coaching progress since the last session? I mean, coaching your teams, taking a coaching style, because that's really going to be the big transformation for you, hopefully as a leader and for your teams and their performance. Okay, makes sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, there's 4 of you in each group, so let me just pull together the breakout rooms. In fact, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's do 3 rooms of 3, and I'll join a room. And then so it's a slightly more intimate group. We'll have 15 minutes on this to talk through, you know, how you found it. Take a screenshot of the page if you need to. And then 15 minutes, we'll regroup at 11. Take some feedback, discuss what's still kind of emerging as themes for us that we might want to also consider in today's session. Then we'll take a short break. Then for the second half of the session, we'll work on a topic or 2 after that. Okay, so yeah, let me open. I'm just going to do, hold on a sec. Let me do that. Okay, yeah, so I will join. I've got John and Stancy in room 3. I'll join John and Stancy in room 3. Okay, so 15 minutes, see you back here at about 11. Okay. Resume the recording. So welcome back, everybody. So be interested to hear what you caught up on. Should we start with, I'll do them in order of the breakout rooms as I see them. So Ria and Tim, if I could ask you first, what did you guys discuss?
Yeah, Tim, I'm happy to go if you want, Tim.
Yeah.
So it was Tim, myself, and Matt. So I'll just quickly go over. Matt had said that he has his boss. He finally met his boss a few weeks ago. So he's now come on board. But he was just a little bit worried because in the 3 weeks he's joined, he hasn't had like any time with him just yet. So everything's a bit all over the place because I think their year starts from February. So hence why his back is a bit against the wall. Tim and I spoke. Tim has a bit of a decision to make, which I'm sure he'll share shortly. And for myself, I just was discussing a particular person in my team who, similar to last time, I've had to use some of the open-ended questions that Oliver and I had practiced with her because, yeah, just a little bit on struggle street with the way she has not been so proactive. Her mindset is really quite grueling, trying to change her mindset to think more positively than negatively. So I've had to kind of change the way I've been managing, how I comfortably manage and kind of be a little bit more micromanaging and making sure that she's accountable for the things that I need her to be, and we're checking in at the end of each day to make sure things are done the way that I need to. And from a difficult conversation that we had, I was actually able to get into a good conversation with her to understand why she was being the way she was. And I was just saying to Tim, it was nice to see the light bulb actually come on and see the shift in mindset, because she's not hitting her quarter. And I said to her, you need to come out of that focus and just focus on Q2. If you keep on staying in Q1 in the mud, you're not going to get where you need to go for the rest of the year. So she was really kind of caught up on the fact that she wasn't going to make that commission naturally. So I just said, you need to kind of like cut that and move on. And I had to be quite direct with her, which I don't really like to be. And she got it. I saw her get it. Like, I literally saw it in her eyes when I was like, why are you focusing on this? You'd rather be less than half from Q1 than £5,000 or £10,000 away from hitting your Q1 target, where you could put all that energy into Q2, crack on. We've got some good projects coming on, which we want you to be a part of. So, come on, I need some more. And she understood what I was saying, and I've seen a bit of a change. It's only been a week, but I'm still sticking close to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, good. Well done, Ria. So you've found using some of the principles that you've picked up.
I had to.
Yeah.
To deep dive on her, I think I really had to, because otherwise I just wasn't getting anywhere. It was just very, I think you know who I'm talking about, but it was very, one way, and it was just, I wasn't getting what I needed, and other people were noticing it in my management peer group. So it left me no option but to have a really blunt conversation.
Yeah, well, and get close to her on a more regular basis. Yeah, well,
exactly.
Well, good luck, and hopefully you'll see a course correction to move forward. Yeah, good. Thanks, Ria. Thanks, Tim. Big decision.
Yeah, so it's not that big a decision really, but it happens to be the top of my list of challenges at the moment. And for a rarity, it's not internal staff that are causing the greatest kind of challenge at the moment. It's actually one of our distributors, and they are pushing for exclusivity basically, but it's a little bit one way. They want to be the exclusive distributor of our products in the Benelux region, yet they're still selling some of our competitors' products at the same time. So we're trying to find a middle ground where it could work, but there has to be a bit of give and take on their side, more so than the other way around. So that's what we're sort of navigating at the moment. So we're kind of a bit of to and froing, and obviously they're pushing hard, and they also want to take on one of our other products, which there isn't a chance in how they're going to be offered that product, because they're not a specialist in a particular area of obstetrics. So they're going to be disappointed about that. But that's kind of the challenge that I'm working through at the moment, and it's something I'm going to move quite fast on, because the longer you drag these things out, the more bitter it can become. So that's just what I'm sort of working through at the moment. So on the big scheme of things, not a particularly big drama, but if that's the worst thing I have to deal with this year, then I'll be a happy man.
Those things do play on your mind, though, don't they? And there's a principle that if someone's willing to pay enough, they can have whatever they want, right? So if somebody says, I want exclusivity in a region, as long as they accept a big enough target and they'll sign up to the right level of purchases. Yeah,
that's the avenue I'm going down. It's like, well, if you want exclusivity, this is the target. This is what you commit to. Sign on the dotted line, and if you don't achieve this, then no longer exclusive. So put the ball back in their court a little bit.
Yeah, very good. Okay, good. Thanks, Tim. Anything else from you and Ria? No, it's good. Okay, good. Anything you need support with today, or have you got it in hand?
From my perspective, no. I think in hand. I've dragged my boss into the decision-making process. He's the commercial director, so I'm being a coward and only taking majority responsibility, but he's my sounding board, basically.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. You're managing the stakeholders. Yeah.
That's what your boss is for. Can share some of success and failures if it happens to go that way.
Yeah. No, that's good. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Ria. Room 2 is Chris, Nicola, and Oliver.
Yeah.
Oliver, Chris, how about you guys? What did?
It was really we were just chatting with Nicola to sort of hear what's going on at her place, to be honest,
Yeah.
and just about the market in general, and what's going on with hers, a lot more serious than what's going on with ours, really. So it was just, and it was just echoing what you said about everything, like in life. 99% of the time that things crop up, it's temporary, but when you're in it, it can often be all-consuming. And it's just kind of, I suppose, stepping back and seeing that, and like we said in our chat, that there's always the clear skies above the clouds kind of thing, but it's being able to kind of rise above that and see see that, because you can get dragged down into those dark places, and then I suppose in Nicola's role, it's about kind of just trying to keep the team's morale up as well. Letting them know that and we said it also, that the business is identified as an issue, which is 10 times better than if the business is blind to an issue.
True.
So it's kind of passing that message through as well. So I don't know what you thought, Oliver.
Yeah, like I echo what you were saying. It's just about controlling the things that you can control, and you can control your mindset and help your team, like in terms of mindset and everything, and just trying to filter down and be the spokesperson for what the higher ups are doing, and just saying, like, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You will get through it. But yeah, it's just how, and just keeping the positive mindset. All of that.
I booked a nice sales meeting for everyone, and we're going to a 5-star luxury hotel in the Cotswolds. I try and keep morale up. We're going to have some really nice people there as well, so do a bit of team building. Just to get sort of what we've got left gelled together, really.
Yeah, good idea. Good idea. Wow.
Can I just ask, is that the Doctor Who TARDIS in the background there, Tim? Because it
Oh, it does look like it, doesn't it?
Like it. I'd like to say it is, but no, it isn't.
I can't stop staring at it.
Just the general background here.
He's
I
not
wish it was, but no, it isn't. Just my wall. Just my wall.
He's not going to take it off blurred background so that you can see Chris either.
No.
You'll have to keep
I'll just
guessing.
figure out how to take the blur off. I'll take it off so I can prove to you it's not. I'm not Doctor Who.
While Tim's figuring that out.
Dalek goes by in the background. Oh,
there you go.
So, just a wall. Just a wall.
Very nice wall though, Tim. Very nice. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Oliver, for your support for Nicola. That's. I love that analogy, Chris. It's a meditation analogy, right? That even when you're in a dark place, right? If you think about the analogy with the sky and the clouds, the sky's always there, just that sometimes the clouds block it off. And remembering that can be really useful, because the clouds, they're transient, like situations and thoughts. At some point it will clear and it'll get better, but it feels permanent right now, that everything is temporary, which actually is quite useful to remember. It's also useful to remember, even in the good times, right? For those of us who are in a good place, that's temporary, because things change all the time. So being able to work through any situation, whether it's good or bad, with that recognition that it's temporary, it's going to change, actually is helpful, because it just keeps us grounded and present in the moment.
Could I just say one more thing? We had a sales meeting this week, and something popped up over the weekend. I wanted to share it with everybody, and it was as in the sales meeting, and it was just like a little quote, and it said, "Our state of mind defines every relationship in our life," and it said, "So why not make looking after it a priority?" And I thought that was quite poignant, really, to share the thing, because it really does. It defines whether it be business or home relationships or friends or whatever. It matters. So it's looking after that, I think.
Yeah, nice. Thanks for sharing that, Chris. Very useful. Yeah, good. And finally, Stancy and John were in room 3 with me, actually. Stancy and John, it's a good discussion there as well.
Yeah, really good. Nicola, I just wanted to say I've kind of let you down as an accountability partner the last month or so, because I've been away quite a lot in the new role and stuff. So we'll catch up this week if you're free, definitely. We'll definitely catch up either today or next week when you're free. Cool. But yeah, so Stancy and I, we both work in the dental industry, so it's quite an interesting conversation, and we have quite a lot of common challenges. So it was good from my point of view, because our focus at the moment is we're trying to go back to a more consultative selling method, rather than constantly, which seems to be the theme at the moment in the dental industry, and I'm sure others, is constant focus on price and what can I get for free, and I need more money off, and it's just a race to the bottom. So as a company, we're trying to kind of refocus people on the actual benefits of using W&H and Stancy with Action. So we have some similar kind of challenges, and Stancy has some really interesting ways of working with her team, as does Chris, where they have a way of protecting the margin, which we don't currently have as a company. So from my point of view, she shared the system that they use, so that's something that I'll take away and absolutely use for us as well. And we also talked about coaching and dual calling. Justin was in the room with us as well, so he gave us some really helpful tips on that side of things. But that's my next. So I've been doing the 133 meetings now for a few months, and been really helpful at giving the team some structure. And now I need to take that out and into the field and do some kind of face-to-face dual calling, coaching kind of things.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
John.
just to add to that, so off the back of the 135 plan that we have, firstly, it's just been received really well by the team, and you know, the sales team are sort of very different in the sense that you've got your
Oh, we've lost your audio, Stancy. Still, keep going, keep talking.
Yeah, can you hear me?
You're back.
Yeah. Yeah, so just off the back of the plan, additional things, so we've got in mind, so when everybody has
Can't hear you.
You're in and out, Stan. Sorry.
I give in.
Sit further back.
I give in.
Sit further back from the thing and just see if that's it.
I've tried different.
Oh, okay.
Just, I don't know what's going on. I should have known.
Sorry, Stans. But yeah, Stancy was saying how the 135 had actually been giving you and your teams not only the clarity, but it was helpful as a coaching tool as well. So the responsibility moves from you to them for using it, completing it. And I think you said, Stancy, they find it useful as like a checklist of things that they need to stay focused on. So it's quite a nice way at the end of each month, or however often you're reviewing it, for them to be able to prepare before they come into a meeting with you, so that responsibility for delivering on their objectives is theirs, not yours. And that's the big thing. So good. Yeah, good, great discussions. So we're at 27 minutes past 11. We're an hour in, we've got half an hour to go. Do you want to take a quick leg stretch, grab a drink? So should we take 8 minutes and come back at 25 to the hour? Is that okay?
Yep.
Perfect. Right, see you at 25 to the hour. Thanks.
Yeah.
I thought it might be useful just to let me walk back through our roadmap, because this always helps me reorientate myself to the program and what we're working through. So just and I'll share these slides with you afterwards so that you've got them if you want to refer back to them. So we talked about mindset first, and mindset for us as leaders, but mindset for our teams. And Ria's example earlier is a really useful one, where one of your teams focus or energy or engagement might just drift or go off the rails a little bit, and bringing ourselves and our teams back onto the right outlook, the right growth mindset, the right perspective is really important, because that's the foundation for high performance. Once the mindset's in place, then make sure that we kind of continually Review and revisit the plan. What are the kind of key priorities that we're focused on as a business, as leaders? What are those key activities that link to those key priorities? Same for our teams. What are their priorities and how are their activities aligning with those priorities at the high level? Then we think about the principles of leadership, make sure that, especially if we've got new team members coming on board, just kind of go back to some of those principles of establishing, psychological safety, establishing trust, making sure there's a clarity around expectations and delivery, making sure that they are managing their own energy, engagement, motivation, and that they've got this growth and development focus for themselves in the business. And then we look at our coach model. We talked about managing relationships, leveraging relationships, just making sure that we've got that balance right between the investments, the deposits that we make, and the withdrawals that we make in relationships. We talked about the importance of establishing that rapport on an ongoing basis with our teams and people that we interact with. Then we looked at contracting, and most of the challenges that we face with relationships, if you can press the reset button and go back to a contracting conversation, that normally irons out a lot of the wrinkles in relationships. That tends to be the key gap for most people. What's the contract we have in place, the agreement we have about the way that we work together? So it's so important to get that right. Objectives and goals. We talked a lot today about the 1-3-3 approach, or a variation of it. Then we make sure that we let the team take the action and we're observing, so action and observation. Again, another really valuable part of the model and lesson for us is to let the teams do what they do, and to create some regular time to observe them doing it, not in any way that undermines or intimidates them, but more from a perspective of being able to give them that perspective they can't give themselves. From that point of observation, we get new insights, and then that creates the opportunity for us to coach. And we had our day together in January. We reviewed all the coaching models. Worth going back through those modules. Oliver recorded the sessions, so there's sessions recorded as well. But go through, the GROW model, the Oscar model, but the importance of questioning and listening as part of that approach, of course. The different models that we have, and remember that solutions focused model that helps us and our teams as we have those coaching conversations to stay focused on, okay, it's tough now, right? But when in the past have you been able to get through situations like this, and what did you do, right? And if they don't have examples, okay, who do you know that's been through situations like this and has got through it in the past, has been through it? Who could you role model here? So we look to kind of past behaviours for guidance and inspiration. If we can't find role models who have done it in the past, then we look to the future. Okay, how could you do this in the future? If you're struggling to find an appropriate past behaviour or experience, how do you think you could manage it in the future? Or how do you think your boss might manage it in the future, or someone that's inspiring to you might manage it in the future? So you've got that frame of reference that just helps guide your questioning and guide the direction, positivity of your team. And then what we'll cover in our final day together is this piece around development planning, thinking about how we become the champion for our teams, and really think about how we stretch and develop them and ourselves as much as possible into the future. We'll look at development planning, and we'll look at succession planning, which will be useful as well. But that'll be our final kind of full day. We know about the Plan 2 framework. You know about that, the coaching leaders model. So we've got our model that we're working through: contracting, objectives and goals, action, coaching, heroes in the making, and then it is a cycle. So I thought a topic for today that might be useful was delegation. So there's a couple of things. There's some delegation principles. There's also a tool in our toolkit that I'll walk you through that is not only useful for delegating, it's also useful if you want to brief someone on a project. It's really useful for kind of project briefing, for handing over different responsibilities, whether that's to your team or peers or agencies. I've used this tool in the past, so I'll share a couple of things with you. First of all, the delegation principles. So Gallup do a lot of these studies around leadership and organizational kind of behaviors. One of their key studies was about CEOs, and they looked at those CEOs who were really good at delegating generated as much as 33% higher revenue, so a third higher revenues for their organizations. And largely that's because they free up their time to focus on the activities that are going to yield the biggest results for them and their companies. And of course, that inspires higher performance in the people around them because they're constantly stepping up through the delegation process. And there's this whole maxim around productivity and effectiveness. So asking not how do I do something, but who should do this task. Because very often, I don't know if you find yourself doing this, especially as a previous kind of high performer in a role, it's very easy to kind of go, okay, how should I get on with this? And actually, often we should ask who should be doing this rather than how do I do this? So there's these 10 principles or checklists for delegation. So the first is about planning for the long term. So I think long term around your delegation tasks and the activities that you might want to delegate to key people in your teams. 2 is knowing what to delegate and why you're delegating it. And not just why for you, but why for the person that you're delegating to. So know what it is you're delegating, the outcome, for example, and then why you're doing it. And there's a mantra around delegating to the lowest level of competence. So we should always delegate tasks to the least capable person, but someone who is capable of doing it. If that makes sense, because that maximizes productivity and efficiency in organizations. This one's interesting, and I've been guilty of this in the past myself, to delegate, not abdicate. So once you've delegated something, it's really easy to go, right, that's got off my plate now, I'm off. And I'm off onto something else and just palm it off onto somebody. I've become a victim of that myself. Both sides had stuff landed on me and dropped things off in the past and haven't probably delegated it. And the best way to do it is to plan to your team's strengths and their goals, right? So people who are strong in a subject enjoy doing something, and for whom it's something that actually aligns with what they're trying to achieve, either in their role or personally. And then when we delegate, we should define the desired outcome. So what it is we want that activity to achieve, but not necessarily how to do it. So what is it we want as an outcome, not necessarily how we want it doing. And that's important because everybody does things different ways. And very often you might find that people could potentially find an easier way or an easier way for them to do that task. Providing the right resources and authority. So depending on what it is we're delegating, to make sure that whoever has that delegation task or that delegated task has, one, the resources to do it. That should be inherent within the delegation, but then the authority, if they need it, to be able to make decisions while they're making that task work for them. 7 is agree how you will support, communicate and review. So this is a bit like the contract. It's a bit like contracting for delegation. So up front you say, right, here's the task, here's the outcome. You can share, here's how I do it, but I'm not wedded to that. Here's the support that you've got. Here's how we can communicate about it, and here's when we'll check in and review how you're getting on with it. And that removes this risk of abdicating rather than delegating. And then point 8 is about recognizing progress. Often when we delegate tasks, people don't always get it right first time, and so recognize the progress that's made. And progress is both the kind of failures or the challenges they face and the successes that they achieve as they move along through the process. So recognizing progress is really important, not just the success or the task being completed. And of course, appreciate the process. It's always a process delegating. I've recently taken on a salesperson, and I'm in this process of delegating out all sales activities. And it's interesting because you have to, I've reviewed this, the reason I brought this list is I reviewed it this week because it's got me thinking like this. It's very difficult when you hand stuff over that you've been responsible for yourself. It can be really easy to jump back in or to start to compare someone's performance with how you do it. And that can be that's a bit of a knife edge that you walk along. So appreciate that it's a process. It takes some time. It takes some investment. It can be really important and really beneficial actually for you as someone who is delegating tasks that perhaps you quite like. And then finally, continually elevate expectations. So start at the right level and then be continually helping that person to start to expect more from themselves through the coaching conversation with you. And that's an interesting one as well, because it will take people a bit of time to reach your standards, to reach your levels of competence, especially when you're delegating something that you're very naturally good at, and you might be naturally good at it because you've done it for a long time. So there's our checklist. Then there's this tool that is in your toolkit, and it is called the delegation tool. And I'll share this with you because actually it's really useful. I found it really useful. On the left is the blank document, and I learned this from a program I was on a while back. And what they talk about is starting with the goal and the purpose. So what is it you want to accomplish, and what's your motivation for delegating it? Okay. And then you talk about the importance. What difference will it make, and what impact will it have? The delegation of it for you and for that person. Then you just define the ideal outcome. What does the completed project look like, and what is the payoff for doing it? What's the benefit? And then number 2, this is interesting. You define that, and then the second part is what they call it selling yourself on delegating it. Right. So convincing yourself that you really do want this to happen. And then you say, right, what's the best result? What's possible if we can take action and this person delivers on it? And then what's the worst result? What's at risk if I don't delegate it, or if it doesn't work when I delegate it? And then you talk about your key success criteria third. So what are the things that we want to say, if these happen, this is what success looks like? And there's up to 6 there. You don't have to use them all. And then I've used an example. There's an example in there as well where I had this project which is about filling one of our accelerators for our dental courses. And you'll see that this is kind of a live situation where I've been handing this over to my salesperson, where we're kind of saying, right, what is it we're trying to achieve? What do you want to accomplish? What's your motivation? Okay. And it was creating a continuous lead generation and management for our dental accelerator programs to make an impact on more teams who can't access training and coaching. What difference will it make, and what impact will it have? Transform sales performance of those teams not trained in selling, create a sustainable recurring revenue stream for our business. What does the completed project look like? Regular cycle of lead generation, inbound inquiries, sales conversations and conversions, and building world-class kind of dental communities is what we're calling it. Selling yourself on the project, best result, we create a process and a cycle that creates a continuous lead flow and conversion for our programs. We have twice as many people asking to sign up as we can handle, and we maintain a waiting list of 100 people at a time. This is like ultimate best result. We're able to increase the number of accelerators we run and grow our business team. Okay, so that's best result. Worst result, we never make the wider impact in the market. Teams never get access to the best sales training available. The current accelerator portal never takes off, and we've invested time and money in setting it up and having the current content hosted, and it never reaches the full potential. So it kind of gives you that, actually, it's like the towards and away from motivation. And then we say, right, what's the success criteria? So we have a lead gen program to target the right potential customer for this accelerator. We have ads that get high engagement for our scorecards and our inspiring emails. We have inbound inquiries to learn more about the accelerators, where we share links, resources, and invite to like a webinar. Webinars that are fully subscribed at 50 people each. We share concepts and start conversion processes. And then we have 10 sales conversations each week to convert. And then there's this continual waiting list building for each quarterly cohort. And we have 12 spots, but 24 waiting every quarter. So we kind of, you can see it as an overall tool for delegating, depending on the size of the task. If it's a big task, or you know, you want to literally delegate responsibility for something that's significant, it's a really nice tool that helps you start to move from concept to reality and thinking about, you know, how I hand over this area of responsibility. Here's how I could do it. And it's particularly used if you're putting in a new role, or if you are looking at somebody that's going to pick up a key responsibility in your business. It's a really nice way alongside a 133 to say, actually, from a delegation perspective for a key task, here's the scope on what we need to achieve, literally talk them through it and then agree what does the review process look like, thinking about the previous kind of principles of delegation. Okay, so there's probably some stuff in here around your own business, the tasks perhaps that you're managing on a day-to-day, week-by-week basis that maybe would be useful to consider for delegation. So I'm just going to open up, and we've got 8 minutes left. I'm just going to open up the conversation to see what you guys think about that. What do you think about that?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, Stancy. Yes.
Yeah. This is one of the things I found so difficult when I first started. And my husband was constantly saying to me, like, he'd see me stressed every night. And he was like, will you just delegate for God's sake? And I was like, I can't. And then he said, delegate there, I don't know how. And I just really struggled to let go. And then when I started to, I think because as well, I've got such an OCD personality. And like, if I delegate a spreadsheet for someone to create, if the text isn't right, if the font size isn't right, if the boxes aren't right, I'm like, I just go into overload and then I redo it anyway. So then I think, what is the point in delegating? But actually, like, the more I've started to do it, and now with Chris in, who's just like my absolute rock now, and I don't know what I'd do without him. Honestly, my life is so much easier. My working life is so much easier. And I've really got so much more time to concentrate on, you know, the drivers that push the business forward, that, you know, things that I couldn't concentrate on before because I was so bogged down controlling all of the day-to-day tasks. Yeah. So I'm a great example of someone who could not let go. I still struggle, don't get me wrong, but I do give more away now. And actually, it's really funny. In our sales meeting this week, we did a flow chart of who the sales team should go to if they need support. And I'm pretty much like out of that flow chart completely, unless it's something really serious. I was like, this is great.
we could see it was creeping back in. And last week, and we just said we've got to address this because Stance was getting sort of dragged into stuff, and you know, and there was more. We haven't got a massive team, so we were like, we just can't afford to do that. So let's reset to the team in the sales meeting, show them a flow chart so everyone gets it, and then they understand exactly who they need to go to for certain situations. We pretty much covered it all off, didn't we?
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Do you know? And there's always when you make these changes and you're delegating, one of the things that you're fighting is human nature, because very often for the small tasks or the small requests, whilst it floods your time and it can feel overwhelming, every time you work through one of those small requests, you get this small hit of dopamine. You're like, yes, I solved that problem, or I helped with that situation, or whatever. But it's a bit of a trap, because then you never, as you said, Stance, you don't have the time then to get to the bigger tasks that really move the business forward and make you actually feel like you're making a bigger impact long term. Yeah, knowing how to do that is really important. That delegation process, and having the courage to do it in the first instance. You have to have people around you that you trust and can work through it. Yeah, very good. Very good. Thanks, Stan. Thanks, Chris. What any other thoughts on delegating and how you might start to, especially for tasks that perhaps you think, if you're ever doing anything, you think, and I have this situation where you're like, why am I doing this? That is a classic delegation opportunity.
Can I just say, it's also important, I think, to leave like a feedback window in there as well, and that maybe on the communication, where you might have a task or a project or whatever, you've delegated it. And I think you also need that little bit of scope there with whoever you've delegated it to feel empowered that they may know a better way of doing that.
Yeah.
You know? So it's not as rigid as you set out. I think you need a framework, but you need a wiggle room there to be open to change.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Chris. And that is the important reason why you define the outcome, not the how to do it.
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. Someone might say, "Oh, do you know you can do this really a lot quicker, or I can get that done in a better way, or you can use this tool or whatever." You know, a bit like Stancy shared with John about how you measure margin through a Power BI tool. And if you don't know about the tool, then there'll be all sorts of things you're doing. You're probably creating, running all sorts of reports, trying to do all sorts of weird calculations just to get to margin. And actually, you could just put in a bit of software, and all of a sudden, it just feeds you the data on a daily basis. So it's the little things that make the difference based on people's experience. So if I can invite you to, so key takeaway from today then is think about those key tasks where you're not the person that should be doing them. If there's anything you're doing on a regular basis, you shouldn't be doing it. Start to question yourself and challenge yourself to think, right, if I was going to delegate this, who's the right person? Whose goals does it align with? Whose strengths and enjoyment does this task align with? And then how would I start to delegate it? If it's a large area of responsibility, you might want to think about that key delegation task tool. If it's something small, then maybe it's just some of the principles around delegating. And I like Chris's definition of a feedback window. Leave that feedback window in so that people can come back to you on it. That's a really good term. I like that. You might see that slide updated, Chris, next time we can cover it. Okay, we're a couple of minutes to 12. So that wraps today's session. If I can ask you to book your accountability conversations with your partners, please. Talk about this month, so between now and next month. Talk about whatever topics are relevant for you. You can have an eye on delegation, because that's really going to help elevate your position as leaders as well. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Great session, great conversations.
Thank you,
luck.
Justin.
Have a great month. Look forward to seeing you all in March.
Good luck, Nick.
Yes.
See you.
Yeah, thank you. Good luck.
Bye.
Yeah. Take care, guys. See you.
Bye.